It's Monday. And, nothing particularly wrong with this day. I would not say I had a restful weekend. Not in the least. So let's make some tea. I'm gonna make some Nilgiri tea, I think. Because that's familiar and calming, and I'm not feeling my best. I am. Well, it's just been a really stressful weekend. And I'll wait for people to roll in because I know that if I start talking about it too early, people will be like, what the fuck did I miss? Let me make sure I have live chat on. There we go. My goodness. Even this morning, it was just one of those... Tapping out my pot here. It was just one of those weekends where did the weekend even go, right? So, the only way to say this is, first of all, I'll start with saying everybody's okay, and that my son's truck exploded. Well, that's the fucking phone call we got, and so I'd been, out in the garage with my dad working on this solar project that's been like 2 years in the making, and we were in the middle of troubleshooting something when he gets, a Facebook Messenger call from my son, and all I hear is my dad go, "What?" And like that's like he'll be long gone, and it'll be 30 years from now, and I'll still be able to like know what it sounds like when he says that way when he's shocked by something, right? But all I hear is Jaden says, "My fucking truck blew up. Manifold's gone, this gone, fire, blah, blah, blah." And so, he's really worked up, obviously. And, I don't know. He had just done some work on it. My son is super mechanically inclined, just like my grandpa. And, I don't know. It was just a crazy ass call to get, right? You're in shock at first and you're far away. And obviously he's okay, but it's like, we didn't know how bad it was until we get there, and so like he's like, my windshield's gone, this is that, and like these firefighters from a completely different county happened to be up here like teaching a class, and they drove by like right like within like 3 or 4 minutes of him pulling over, and like flames shooting out after he popped open his hood, right? Which I told him was a little bit of a mistake because it was just smoke at first, but when he opened that hood, it gave it oxygen and it went poof, right? And they happened to be there, and thankfully they used water instead of a fire extinguisher. But yeah, that was a crazy phone call to get, and then to get there, and then we have AAA because shit like that happens, and it's pretty cheap for an entire year, but no fucking shit because it's like it takes them 5 hours to get anywhere if you're not, and it's frustrating because there's like 7 tow truck companies in the town he broke down in them, but none of them are certified AAA. And you're like, well, you would just hire one, but they want $500 for like a mile tow, so you have to wait for AAA. So they didn't get there till 10 o'clock, and he was burned out truck in like a tweaker area where like all the fentanyl zombies currently live. Just gonna say the quiet part out loud. And so sitting there was fucking crazy, like, because if he left that rig there, it would have got stripped. No doubt about it, But it was just, so that was our weekend. Son's truck blew up. He had been, I know a lot of people might not be overly mechanically inclined in this chat, but his timing had been off and he'd been working on it. And then he thinks that one of his gas lines had a hairline crack in it, and then so those gas fumes were under there, and then when it backfired because the timing was off, it caught everything up. So, and then came the point where he realized that I only pay for liability insurance for him because I was working on getting him to be an adult. Said adult had a high paying job, and I was like, I'm only going to pay for liability. If you want full coverage, you can like, because keeping him on ours because he's 21 is like a huge increase to our car insurance, and but so he's currently working on assessing the damage and rebuilding it. Instantly started that night. I'm like, oh, so he he won't give up on it, and he can fix it. But it's like, man, that was our weekend, right? And like, so it's, um, yeah, AA, AAA is, I mean, it's great when they do show up, but it's like, it's crazy how long it takes them to show up. Like, that happened at like 5 o'clock. They didn't show up until like 10 o'clock at night. So, for the while that we were there with them, it became a game. Like, there was one tweaker guy who went by, and I'm like, I don't believe that man owns those weed whackers. Because he had one, like, strapped to his back like a samurai sword, and then he was desperately trying to, like, pedal with another one across his handlebars. And I'm like, man, and I know people will say it's insensitive to laugh at shit like that, but if you live around a lot of it and you don't fucking laugh at it, you'll lose your mind. But yeah, he's okay. He's lucky those firefighters, like, were driving by when they were, because our local fire department didn't show up for 30 minutes. And, car fires get away really fast. Um, it just is, yeah. Yeah, it's bad. So, but it's just kind of, maybe that's the third thing from forever ago, right? I don't know. Fucking car doesn't blow up every day. So I'm just kind of, and it wasn't even, I don't even know that it was, I mean, it's stressful, but trying to, like, hold my shit together. So, like, he's put a lot of work into that truck, you know. So to watch it literally go up in flames, like he just got done replacing a head gasket. Like, you take the whole half of the top of the motor off to do that. And, um, but so I think maybe it's more just about, like, the stress on my nervous system, right? Because even though your kid's okay, when you hear something really bad happens, until you, like, get to them and, like, assess the situation, right? The whole time you're just, like, kind of numb. That's at least what my nervous system does. But um, yeah, somebody said life is full of the third thing. It really is. But they always seem to come in sections, right? You're like, oh fuck, here it comes. That smells really nice. And then, but everybody's okay. It'll be all right. He'll basically be living, well, he doesn't have to, but he won't come home from grandma and grandpa's until that thing is fixed. But we think he got that job you went to, interview for, because I already had him fill out tax paperwork. And it'd be really weird to have somebody fill out tax paperwork if you weren't going to hire him, but the tea makes it better. you know? But yeah, no, just one of those, like, I definitely didn't get rest this weekend. And then the next day was family dinner, which isn't necessarily unrestful, but you're like, oh, I have to have, the chickens in the oven in time, and, like, you're having to, like, plan stuff. And so the day that is normally no thinking from my brain, my son's truck blew up. So it doesn't really feel, um, my rules make somebody uneasy. Well, often people who don't have boundaries are uncomfortable by people having boundaries. So I don't know what the fuck to tell you other than to do some inner work. But yeah, today I'm just gonna kind of take it easy. Husband's catching up on customer service, and I am gonna do a little bit of outside work. We did yesterday before everything went crazy. Yesterday we managed to, well, everything was already crazy, but we did get the comfrey planted. The day before that, I did get all of my 9-star cauliflower, words aren't working right now, planted, and I'm excited about that one because she's a perennial. So every year she'll come back. Now, I read if you let her go to seed, she can die back, but so I'm gonna try to keep most of them from going to seed this year, but I might try to let one go to seed because those seeds were expensive. And I would like to have a stash of them built up in case they do die back. But yeah, I don't know, I'm excited about the perennials. Oh, I'm so shook by a truck blowing up, I forgot to mention. Harvested my first food from the greenhouse on Saturday morning. Yeah, Saturday morning. I got a bunch of spinach harvested and used it all for breakfast. And then the next morning, we also were able to harvest some collard greens. Not a whole lot. I can take the biggest leaves, but that was, nice to feel. And this morning when I went out, there was frost all over the outside grass, so it's just, in the greenhouse stuff. But that feels like a win. At least saved me some money because I already had those seeds. I've already had those seeds for years, and I've got a lot of them to germinate. I was like, all right, so at least the amount like amortized. So I maybe spent $2 on those seeds 2 years ago. So I didn't go broke doing it. It's really easy when people are first getting into gardening um, to end up spending shit fuck tons of money. Right. But you don't have to go that way. Sometimes there's no way to avoid in like investing seeds and stuff, but if you get inventive and use what's around you in your environment, what you can find for free, you can save a lot of money. If you are just buying seeds of things that you eat, you can save a lot of money. I stopped letting myself look at seed catalogs. But also on websites, like if I go to like a seed website, unless I'm looking for something like not in particular, like I will be like, no, you're just looking for tomatoes. You don't need to click on this other category, right? And you can really narrow down your spending on gardens, right? It really, it really is. It really is helpful. So let's see. Somebody keeps going off in the comment section. I'm not ignoring people. I'm just talking out loud, and I do my Q&As specifically like on Fridays. Sometimes I might catch a question in here like on a not Friday and talk about it, but I'm really just processing my brain right now. Which is good for me because like I also need space to like be a human where I'm not like always like somebody's Google, right? Oh, I did want to say, remember on Friday when I talked about I was first of all, let me say a lot of people wanted to join my my women's like homesteading prepping group, not understanding that it's an in-person community that I'm trying to build. There won't be like a Facebook page or anything. But I made that post looking for people to join it, and when I hopped off of here on Friday, it was crazy. It was crazy because like 50 women had asked to join. I'm like, okay. And then we have like a group chat, so I added a fair amount of them to the group chat. But you can't add people to a group chat unless you're like friends with them or have communicated over Messenger before. But so next Friday we're supposed to meet up at a local park, and I'm nervous. There's nothing planned. I made it really clear that I don't want anybody to feel any extra pressure. That's why we're always going to do it in public. That way, nobody has to have the pressure of like having their house perfect or put together or having people come over because we all deal with that pressure enough in life, especially as women. And then we're not really doing any food. We don't have to make any plans. Like we're just going to basically like be sitting at like picnic tables and talking. Now, eventually, we could move into like food and things like that, but like the point is, I want it to be more where like just a group of friends that are talking about things and sharing interests. And of course, I'm going to encourage people to like make networks outside of the Friday meetups, right? Where like if you want to message this person and you guys to work on some sort of project because you have something similar, like do that, but often when I look at groups, I like feel overwhelmed by them because I have so much stuff going on in my life already that I can't like, you know what I mean? Like I'm like, oh, okay, well if I join this group, I have to put in like 37 community hours, or something like that. And I'm like, fuck, my kid's car just blew up. I just want to sit at a picnic table and talk to people. So this is that Nilgiri platinum needle. That's what I am drinking today. So I'm both excited and nervous for Friday. The Thursday before that, we have that meeting with the county. Well, it's a meeting that everybody can go to that's about our county trying to limit people's ability to like own any livestock on land. So there's that going on. I don't know. It feels like it's going to be a busy week. A busy week. But it might not be. You know, today I'll be happy if I just get a bed ready and start like a garden bed ready, and then start. I'm slowly working on reclaiming a strawberry patch that a couple years ago some of our pigs at the time decimated. But they're still there. There's like, I look and I'm like, oh, there's a strawberry, there's a strawberry, there's a strawberry, but the weeds have moved in. And it's hard to, I need to get that soil really wet. That way I can actually pull the weeds out. I think I might also prefer digging up the individual strawberries and then just ripping the bed back, right? But I tried that the other day and I couldn't sink the fucking shovel in for the life of me. I was like, nope, you know. So I think I need to get the bed really wet, but I'm gonna just try to slowly reclaim it. I don't expect we'd get like a super amazing strawberry crop this year, but if I do that and I don't really harvest from them, and or I pinch off all the blooms, even though that's really hard to do emotionally because I would like to eat the fruit. If you pinch off all the blooms, they'll really focus on spreading out, and I'll get that big patch back, you know, because I would like strawberries because they're ridiculously expensive and often just dripping in chemicals, even if you buy organic. You know that organic doesn't mean pesticide or herbicide free. It just means they have to use a specific type of pesticide or herbicide. Um, oh, have we been looking for morels? Yeah, my son has. The ticks this year have been horrendous, and he went down. We live by a river, and they always like to grow like along the poplars and stuff like that. He went down there, and it's like from where we're at, if you park and then you start hiking, uh, you can, it's about a mile, maybe 2 miles. It looks closer than it is, you know, but he was like, Mom, it was like bone dry. And then he was like, I was like, are you flicking ticks off yourself right now? We were outside. He's like, yeah, it was bad. And I mean, that kid must have pulled 20 plus ticks off of him over the past 3 days. None of them were embedded or anything, but you know, you feel them crawling. And so I had one crawling up my leg last night while I was laying there watching TV. I was like, you son of a bitch. My biggest tip for people always talk about how to keep them off of you, and that's not a bad thing. But my biggest tip is stop shaving your legs. Like, if you want to feel a tick crawling on you, that's what your hair is there for, right? Most people, once you shave, you don't feel the ticks. You know, you don't feel them because they're like, they're stealthy little bastards, and like they're meant to move really slowly, right? Are like really undetected. They're a spider, if you didn't know that and you felt like you wanted to be more creeped out by ticks. But he didn't find any fucking mushrooms. Other people have been finding them, you know. We went and checked the up past or further up pasture because they like to be up there sometimes. But our weather's real hit or miss, and honestly, in another month I'll be able to go further up the mountain and find them. Right, and then the tick pressure is usually the worst right in early spring. Um, so I'm kind of like okay with waiting. And I'm gonna tell a secret that people will think is fucking blasphemous. I think oyster mushrooms are better. They're easier to find. They taste better. You find one big clump and you can cut it off and have like this much mushroom all at once, you know? I know, it's so bad. I don't mind morels, but like I grew up eating them by like the bucketful, so it's like I don't know. They're good and they're tasty, and I definitely look for them. But like, there's something about oyster mushrooms that I just find so much more appealing. Um, but yeah, if you live somewhere where there's lots of ticks and they're not those nasty little seed ticks, I'm so grateful that we don't have those. But if you have like normal sized ticks, I would stop shaving because you'll feel them, especially if you like are out in nature and you're worried about getting bit by a tick. You know, sometimes I'll just be like, ugh, grab them without even looking because my hair on my body told me where it's at, because your hair is actually part of your nervous system. For those who don't know that, your nervous system is directly connected to like your hair follicles. So like you can feel the wind blow, you can feel something touch you more if you have hair where it's supposed to be, you know. But uh, but yeah, so I don't know. For me, I don't love them enough to push out into how bad the ticks are right now. Right, it's just kind of you know. And then walking Lula, we have to keep her on the gravel road right now, and she's not happy about it. But Once we push the cows out into the pasture, what'll happen is they'll knock all the grass down, like they'll eat it, and then the ticks have a harder time existing because they like to get way up on tall grass. And then I don't know if you know this, but the way ticks know you're coming is they sense CO2. And if you are a person that, like, let's say you go to the woods with a friend, multiple friends, anytime, and you're always like really, really covered in ticks and the other people aren't, it's probably because there's something going on with your breathing. Like you've got like oxygen issues, you're putting out more CO2, like they can smell you. Like, and I hate to say this because it always makes people feel fucked up, but like, um, ticks sense sick animals. So like when I was like super drenched in cortisol, right? Like I would always have more ticks than when I'm dealing with my stress, right? Because they know that they can weaken like a sick animal, And we don't like to think of ourselves as animals, but we are, And nature's like, ah, that one's easier to hunt, right? Um, so if you're a tick magnet, and it's not just because there's millions of them around you and everybody gets them the same, but if you find yourself getting them more than the people around you, look into your cortisol levels, look into your oxygen levels, that kind of stuff. Also, this will sound odd, but work on breathing out of your nose instead of your mouth. If you're doing a lot of mouth breathing, you let out more CO2. Right. It's not great to be a mouth breather either. And there are things you can do like it sounds so weird, but like mouth tape at night and like working on like your jaw structure and things like that. People make memes out of mewing now, but it really does help people learn how to breathe out of their nose instead of their mouth. And that has far, far more health benefits than just like, oh, I might not get ticks on me, you know. But yeah, and some people say like I saw the eat more garlic comment, and yeah, that's can be a factor, um, but also like there are people that eat shit tons of garlic and still get ticks on them. It just depends on what's going on with your body, what type of ticks you have around you, how heavy the load is. But yeah, I'm not a fan of ticks, but I'm also not terrified of them. I know a lot of people are really afraid of that type of stuff, and it's valid, but I don't know. As a person who like grew up eating the antibodies that are created in deer, I've never once been sick by a tick bite, and it doesn't mean that it couldn't happen, but I don't know. It's really ironic because people make like the fear of ticks, they stay out of nature, and then ironically like they're not in the food chain, they're not out in the land, and then when they get bit by something that's from nature, they get really fucking sick, and it's nobody's fault. It's just kind of it's really interesting because if you look at populations that grew up eating nothing but like a large amount of like venison, like wild game, like deer, elk, caribou, whatever, they have a really, 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 really low incidence of Lyme disease and other things. It doesn't mean that they can never get it, and there aren't people that do get it, but the incidences compared to like somebody from the city who has never eaten venison or wild meat in their life gets bit by a tick and they're like basically like disabled for the rest of their life. And so you have to remember that the things you intake from the environment around you give messages to your immune system. It's a lot like, did you know when you breastfeed your baby, you give them immune information, right? They take immunities from your milk to create their own immune system. And let's say if you're sick, like if you have a cold, you want to keep breastfeeding the baby because they literally get the white blood cells, your immunities that you're making while you're sick, right? And so it helps them not get sick. Now I want you to take that and comprehend that idea around eating wild foods that are growing around you, or I don't know, eating deer that have been bit by something that has Lyme's disease. They're making antibodies for it, right? So your body gets a message that this exists in your environment, right? And then your body can make, antibodies for the bacteria that is Lyme's disease, or is this, or is that. And again, it doesn't work every time, but it works more than having no information about it from your environment. The problem is we're all separated, right? We all live in like, this is nature, this is us, this is danger, we stay away, right? And so it's really hard. So eating local can be really helpful. Wild foods is better. There's even a huge change in gut microbiome between like civilized and non-civilized. In fact, my own culture has a study on it. It's really cool. They studied the gut health of Irish travelers compared to like settled people, and we still have like half wild gut bacteria. And it was really interesting. I actually I read about it a bunch online. I finally got a hold of the institute that did the study. I was like, can I have like the actual results, not just like the really cool blog posts that are going around about it? Like, I want to see what bacteria was there, and it was really interesting to see what was there. And a lot of it is not because we're special, other than like we spend a lot of time around animals, living in big groups, or living around people, living outside, working in the dirt or around the dirt, and eating wild foods and things like that, and it impacts your microbiome. Most people are severely lacking in soil-based probiotics in their gut, because we're also made to completely and utterly fear eating a berry without washing it. I did a post once about like why I don't really wash wild foods, and like the level of fucking people, like there were people like straight up like wishing me like death because I told them like not to wash a berry. They're like, there's shit and piss all over it. I'm like, where the fuck are you getting your berries at? Like, in their mind, in nature, a deer or a bird, like, specifically is like, oh, I got a shit, but I can't find a berry anywhere. And I'm like, I'm not saying to gather along trails. I'm not saying that if your bioregion has something weird about it, like dangerous slugs, don't wash it. But, like, the level of fear if people have of just, like, eating a tomato from their garden, or a blackberry off a bush, or a wild apple from a tree is fucking insane. And it's like why we're all really sick. And I'm just like, how do these people like survive? Like that, like, and what's crazy is if shit gets real bad in our current reality, because things look really weird right now, even if we fell back into the Great Depression, people are gonna be for a rude fucking awakening when you're like lucky if you could get a possum to eat, you know? Like, it just, but it's crazy like how, and I don't even feel like it's their fault. Like, I don't even hold it against the people. Like, I feel bad, I feel sympathetic because they've been made to be terrified of that. They have just been utterly conditioned to believe that they need to be constantly covered in a thin sheen of Purell, and that all their food needs to be dipped in bleach, you know? Um, or that like any time in nature, and then the whole like some people got sick from swimming in a lake. Now people are like terrified of like swimming in a river or like any wild water, or like, and it's like damn, but the further they step back from that, they don't realize that the more likely you are to get sick from those things because you're living in like a hyperbaric sterilized bubble, and it's just it's so crazy. um so I'm really grateful that like I grew up basically eating microscopic amounts of dirt off of like wild plants, and getting my hands like inside of the gut of a deer and like tromping through cow shit, and just like existing in the river, and being around too many dogs, and and pulling a tick off of me without having like a panic attack about it, or just all that kind of stuff. And it's just somebody said, I know people are afraid to drink well water, whether there's treatment or not. That's crazy. I only drink well water. I am afraid to drink city water. What's crazy? If you live somewhere where your water isn't chlorinated, like if you have well water or you have spring water, and then you go to somebody's house in a city or a town where they're using chlorine, and most cities all over the U.S. use chlorine, or a type of chlorine to sanitize their water, and I turn on your faucet, I can smell it. Taking a shower is like a chlorine bath. Like, it's like I literally smell, because I don't know if you know this, but chlorine off gases, right? Especially when it's warm. And so it's like when you turn that warm shower on in a hotel room and there's chlorine, I'm like, I might die if I go in there. Right? And it's crazy, but the people who live around it don't smell it anymore because your olfactory nerves are used to it, right? Um, but I couldn't imagine, like, even when we go to town to visit my parents, I don't I don't drink town water. I've got a bottle full of my well water, or spring water or what have you, I mean, I'd drink it if I had to, but Also, part of my dad's career over the years was taking care of like a massive aquatic center, and so like I hate the smell of chlorine. Like everyone's like, oh, like chlorine and sunblock, or like what my personal hell will smell like. You know, because like we never could afford babysitters, so like my ass just bebopped around the pool. You know, I was a pool rat for sure, even though I didn't really want to be there. I usually just harassed the lifeguards and was like, "You should give me some of that candy because I think my dad's your boss," you know. But it never really worked. We're like, "Uh huh, right." But so no, you know, so my dad is like, "Oh, chlorine's fine." I'm like, "Ah, it's so bad for your gut health," you know, and everything like that. But we used to live before we lived where we're at now. The town, it wasn't even really a town. It was unincorporated. There was like 100 people that lived in the area, and like nothing else, no post office. It was just people, and there was a big town well and a massive water tank, but we were right by it, and like I had to have a Berkey filter because when they would add the chlorine to the tank, it was like you could turn the water on in the house and then the whole house would smell like chlorine. They were putting way too much chlorine in it. You know, even my dad was like, "That's too much chlorine," you know, and we're right next to it, so we get the worst dose of it, and it was bad. It was bad. I put that Berkey to its test, right? Pulling that chlorine out of that water, you know, and then, you know, going up the mountain for spring water whenever we were up that way for gathering and stuff. But, yeah, it's gonna be a okay week. I'm gonna try to have an okay day, let my nervous system ramp down and all that kind of stuff. I hope everybody liked the dandelion video that I had the apple tree help me with. uh, Somebody explained to me how I should wear makeup, so that was a fun comment. I was like, "All right." She's like, your skin is shiny." I'm like, "Well, the sun is shining on it." So that happens sometimes, you know. Um, so make sure to go watch that if you haven't yet. I'm not sure what video I'm gonna make this week yet, but I'll make one, promise. If you do want to support my capacity to just be a human and rant freely and exist and all that kind of stuff, consider becoming a member. It's just a way to throw me a couple bucks a month. You do get early access to videos if I happen to get them uploaded during the week. If you can't afford to, don't even worry about it because I release the videos on the weekends anyway, so it's not a paywall, just a little bit of a time wall. You can also call things home from my apothecary, like my motherwort lavender synergism capsules that are good for, you know, stress and anxiety like I've been experiencing this weekend going into Monday. But you can use the one-time code TEATIME, TEATIME, for anything in my shop to save 10%. You can also make sure that you like, comment, subscribe, turn on notifications, and share. Sharing is super important because it helps other people realize that they are smart enough to learn this stuff too, and it helps get my work out there, and it's just a fantastic way to support me. And thank you so much for letting me jabber today, and I will see everybody tomorrow morning. Bye.